I want you guys to know, like, I know I always post my morning workout, like Instagram story thingies. I want you to know I do that right after I get off the treadmill when I'm focusing on what's going to happen for Coffee with Coach. And what came to me today over and over again was that we are limiting ourselves. It's funny, I don't normally talk to you guys like that, right? I don't. I know a lot of coaches are like, you're hammering down what you think is possible, right? Like that's a big coachy thing to say. And I don't usually do that with you guys. So today's a little bit of a hairy topic. We can talk about how sometimes we might have a limiting belief. One of the episodes I did last summer for the podcast was all about how our hidden beliefs, right? So there's the invisible that makes the visible, and the invisible is the beliefs, right? Which then generate the thoughts. So those are the invisible things. And then the bridge is action. And over here in the visible world, we have the results of those actions. But if we don't understand that the beliefs and the thoughts are driving those actions, or what they even are, or how they got there, it's really hard to understand why we keep taking the same action and keep causing the same results, because a lot of the times coaches stop with thoughts instead of going all the way deeper to beliefs. So that can happen a lot too. And what occurred to me today is we have not had this conversation about what you're training for. And one of the reasons I haven't had it in probably a year with you guys, because I believe in circular teaching, right? I teach you guys something and then I'm going to touch on it again, and then I'm going to touch on it again, and then I'm going to touch on it. So then it sinks in and you can see where it applies to different aspects of your life. It's really important to me that this isn't like a one and done learning, right? You keep coming back to it and you keep seeing where it can form in your life in different ways. So what we have here is an exhausted population right now. Right, we're really tapped out. We talked about that last week, about how do you keep going when you're so tired. Those of you, my monthly students, you now know what your amygdala is, and we know it has grown in size, and you know what that means. So we look at all of the different changes we've had, and we're also tired, right? It's like this constant level of exhaustion people are experiencing. So it never felt right to me to come back and say, what are you training for? Except it's time for us to start talking about what are you training for? And what this looks like isn't like, so many times you say, what are you training for? People are like, what, you mean like a marathon? Kind of, but no, we only think of it that way. Isn't that funny? But you're actually training for the life you expect to be having. And I've watched this recently with several people. I've just observed, myself included, by the way, just sort of observing, like, what do we expect to happen? Do you expect people to let you down? Are you training for that? Are you looking for it, like actively searching for it? Are you actively searching for joy? Are you actively seeking that out every day? Are you actively seeking out, you guys know this is a big one, being right and making other people wrong? The rub here is sometimes we train ourselves to make the naysayers right. I know I have several of my Business Accelerator Sprint students. You guys know we have 3 groups running right now. And several women just this last week were talking about naysayers in their lives. And what we can get trained by ourselves and others to do is make them right. See, I knew you shouldn't have done that. I told you. How did that happen? What were you training for in that moment? Isn't that interesting? I know, and I don't mean to put all the onus on us. Like we're tired already, right? Please, we were shock absorbers for a year. We're doing all this stuff everywhere we go, and we have our own businesses. Oh, and P.S. we're supposed to be saving the whole world. Oh, and by the way, did I sleep ever? So there's a lot going on for us, and I don't mean to put all the onus on us, and I don't mean it to sound super heavy and like, okay, now get up and figure out what you're training for. Instead, I want to prompt you with a couple of questions that I hope will support you as you go through this, because I can't say this strongly enough. And I really want to be careful. One of the reasons I haven't had this yet is I don't want you to feel like there's more on you. That's not what this is. This is happening anyway. And because it's been so challenging, I don't want it to be happening anyway. And you're like, what the F? Why does this keep happening? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're training for it anyway. Let's figure out what you're training for. So if you don't like it, you can alter it. Not like it's your fault. You shouldn't. No, we don't do that here. Like, that's not what this is. This is like, let's figure this out. It's like when you put, oh boy, I have been baking a lot, but it's like when you put flour in the sieve, right, to sift it. You got to see what comes out. And there will be stuff that's left in here. Let's look at what that is so you know. So that if it's not making you happy, if it's not helping you fulfill your deepest desires, and you guys know, I'm not talking about your handbags. I'm not talking about your jewelry. I'm not talking about your shoes. I'm talking about your life. I'm talking about, you on the deathbed having your rosebud moment, like in Citizen Kane. Have you been chasing all the wrong things your whole life only to realize what you wanted was the simplicity that you experienced in childhood? That scene in that movie is so poignant and so powerful is not even a big enough word. It's critical for each one of us to ask that question. And now more than ever, we know, and I hate saying more than ever because we all say it, but now more than ever, really, after this year of the truth, the illusion of control being stripped, right? The illusion, this false calm that we have all settled into from time to time where we just think, oh, well, it's going to be exactly like it was yesterday, tomorrow. It's not, or it could not be. We're not promised that. And if you have some contract with a God that I don't know about, I'd like one, please. But I don't think any of us have that contract. Like, tomorrow, bus, me, you, anyone, hit, gone, right? And I think, we learned this last March, right? Tuesday looked like this. Wednesday looked like something completely different. Out of the blue, like boom, gone. And at any moment that can happen again for different reasons, right? We talk about this. We talk about the diagnosis, the phone call you can get. We can talk about an accident. We can talk about a loved one being hurt. We could talk about a positive explosion in your business that alters your day-to-day instantly. It can be positive too. I don't mean to harp on the negative. It's just that's where we tend to go, right? It's like, oh, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And then all of a sudden we are at the end crying out for our childhood sled. Because all of the effort and all the millions and all of the things we thought we were supposed to want brought us no joy. And we don't know why. Because they're supposed to. And that moment, the reason I say the negative things, and I'm sorry about that, but I want to drive home to you, is that moment could arrive for any one of us today, tomorrow, next week. So don't waste another day not understanding what you're training for. Are you training for that moment? By chasing what the world is telling you need to chase? We talked about that, 3 weeks ago in Coffee with Coach, when I talked about the 3 reasons more women aren't happier. And we've got an uphill battle here, you guys, in that we are trained to look good on the outside as women. We are trained to keep up a certain persona. We're trained that we are supposed to have it all together all the time. Oh, and P.S., look pretty while you're doing it. I don't care how unhappy you are. I don't have time to listen to you being unhappy. That's annoying, right? So we have that uphill battle on top of us not checking in enough to say, what am I training for right now? So here's how we're going to ask these questions, okay? If you guys have a journal, I would recommend you get it. All right. And here are the first question I'd like you to answer today. All right. And that is, what actions do you repeat every day? Now, these can be both positive or those that you feel push you further towards your goals, right? So maybe you do yoga every day, or you meditate every day. You love your morning coffee every day, right? Working out is one of mine too, right? Like, you can have your positives. Maybe you study a little bit every day. Maybe you read a great novel every day to release your brain and have it enjoy, some fun stuff for a change, right? Maybe you prepare your house a certain way, or maybe you complain every day. Sorry. Maybe you leave things undone every day. Maybe you gossip with your friends every day. Maybe you look in the mirror and tell yourself you're too fat, too ugly, too skinny, too big, too small, too gray, too old, too young. What actions do you repeat every day? And this is, again, not an opportunity. I don't believe in oh my God, I'm so, no, there's no berating here. This is I want you to pretend you're a scientist. When they put people in those rooms, I just watched a documentary on this, by the way, it was so creepy, where they put somebody in a room for 72 hours with no stimulation at all. It was white, lights on the whole time, a bed, a toilet, a sink, end of list for 72 hours. He almost lost his mind, note to self. Anyway, pretend you're in that room, but in a nice, cozy, lovely room, right? You're watching what's happening. What do you see? And again, no judgment, just observe for a minute. Do you see the gossip? Do you see complaining? Do you see unmet expectations? Do you see friendships with people who aren't supporting you? Do you see a beautiful community that you love, that you participate in actively? Do you see healthy habits? Do you see sneaking chocolate into the laundry room just to get a minute alone? I don't know where I get that idea from, right? Yeah, do you see that? Right? Do you see sitting in your car talking on the phone to people because it's the only place you can be, like, get space and have it be quiet? Just notice. Again, no judgment. No judgment, guys. No judgment, okay? What I want here is, again, just like we said, let's shake out all the stuff that we don't normally look at. So we can look at it. What do you see? And if you were to watch somebody repeat that behavior every day, what are they training for? Are they training for unmet expectations? Are they training for sadness? Are they training for joy, for disappointment, for happiness, right? Just like satisfaction is one of my favorites. So I watched this and I noticed something. I'm going to share a little bit more with you guys. And this is kind of a term from psychology. It's really interesting. So they do this when they're working with people who have addictive tendencies, whether it's alcohol, cocaine or heroin, or overeating or gambling, right? Just to sort of understand, why would someone continue behavior that's against their best interest? What happens there? And obviously I can't give you the full psychological study in our Coffee with Coach this morning, but I just want to give you some highlights. So as you're noticing what you're doing, here's some things I just want you to know, okay? There are what we call top line behaviors. These are the behaviors you're gonna see where you're noticing you are working in your own best interest. Those actions that you repeat every day, those are your top line. That's like, oh my gosh, if I could design a day where I take incredible care of myself, I'm loving to the people I care about most, I really work on my goals and I keep my business moving forward. Like, that's top line behavior. That's like the behavior you really want. That's the behavior we're all seeking, like the really strong, wonderful behaviors. The middle line. Okay, now when you're in the middle line, this is when your attitude or your experience starts to hit what we call like the yellow light, right? So top line would be green light, go, you're killing it, go, just keep going, you're great. Midline is when we might want to put the brakes on, right? So often when there's a yellow light, if you ask most people, I think it's 80% of people, when you ask them about a yellow light, should you slow down or speed up? 80% say speed up. In this scenario, as you're looking at your actions, you want to understand where your head goes. And again, this is how you've been training, right? Where does your head go when you're in the midline? Okay, so the midline is the thoughts or feelings or expectations that start to come in right before you hit what we call the bottom line or the low line. And this is when people start gambling, people start drinking, people start overeating. Like this, that's the low line. You go to bed, you have a fight with your best friend, you start gossiping, you start naysaying other people. That's never going to work for her. I don't know who the hell, like that bottom line behavior, right? And it could also be, you do sit down in front of the TV, start eating some Cheetos and you're like, F this day. That might be like, it might feel good in a moment. And sometimes we need to take breaks, but over the long haul, what are you training for? Right? So just checking in and going, oh, I see that behavior. What led to that? And what led to that behavior is usually in the midline. So I want to teach you guys about this, okay? So I want you to pay attention to the word HALT. HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Those are your midlines, like, uh-oh. H is for hungry, A is for angry, L is for lonely, and T is for tired. HALT. And it's so cool that that acronym, right, fits right into don't be one of the people who tries to plow through the yellow lights. Whoa, hold on. I'm probably about to behave in a bottom line behavior. I'm about to train myself that I live on the bottom line, right? And so it's like being aware, and this is what I mean by it's a psychological effect. Like so many times in coaching you guys, we're like, just change your thoughts. Well, you have to understand when the thoughts come in, right? You kind of have to have this ability to go, whoa, what's going on with me for a sec? And a lot of the times that happens because the thoughts are already there. They went in already, right? But if you can't identify the behaviors or the way that they make you feel, it's really hard to change them. That's one of the things about coaching I really don't like. Like, just change your thoughts, your whole life. It's sort of, right? I talked about the invisible, but what's behind those? And then how do you stop the actions that are giving you the results you don't want? You halt. You check in and go, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Now, I want you guys to know something crazy about me. I learned as I was studying this for you guys. One of mine, and it's not under HALT. I'm like, how can I put it in? I need to make my own category. Mine is celebration. When I am super happy, like maybe my H can go for hungry or happy. When I'm really happy, I like relax. I'm like, it's cool, I'll do it tomorrow, everything's fine. It's so crazy, right? So for me, one of mine is like celebration, joy, or happiness. That's actually a midline thing for me. Because once I feel that way, I tend to go to the bottom line behaviors. Isn't that crazy? So that might be that for you too. And I recognized that when I was listening to another psychologist speak actually, and she said, we have a phrase for people who are in AA. If you're having a bad day, go to a meeting. If you're having a great day, go to 2. I was like, oh my gosh, if I was going to AA, that would be me. Because joy and celebration tends to be one of those things that has me be like, work? What work? What? Eat healthy? What eat healthy? You see, it's so interesting. So you want to get to know yourself here. So that's when we go to what actions are you seeing on a daily basis? And then understanding what are your midline behaviors that get you there when they're the actions you don't want to take. Okay? Really cool, right? I hope that's really helpful for you guys. And I hope you can see there's no blame here. There's nothing wrong. I hope this is just super useful for you. So you go, oh, I might be tired. I might be exhausted, but that doesn't mean I have to run to baseline behaviors or bottom line behaviors. I can keep this up. I can stay here and just be aware. I'm in midline right now. I'm tired. I'm angry. I'm lonely. I'm hungry. I'm super happy. But that doesn't mean I have to go take on bottom line behaviors. I can stay here for a little bit. I'm okay. And that's part of the understanding of the invisible. Now that we have HALT, right? So good. What I want you to know is what your most persistent negative thoughts are. Now, those of you who are my monthly members or those of you who are in the business accelerators right now, you know how important this is. I'm just going to share this one more time. I shared this during the heart of the pandemic as well when we were going live every single day. And it is that we will give negative thoughts 5 times more attention than positive thoughts. So I'm not here to be like, no, your negative thoughts. Oh. No, your brain's already way ahead of the game. And those of you who are monthly students, you know why right now it's even more ahead of the game, right? Like we are wired for negativity right now. We're like watching for it all the time. On top of the fact that our brain normally does that. You guys have probably heard other coaches talk about this, or if you've been in this space for a while, you probably have, but why does it do that? Why would our brain focus on negative things 5 times more often than positive things? Why? And you know it's true, right? Just think about it like the last time somebody posted something negative on one of your Facebook posts or Instagram posts, like you remember that negative one, right? You don't remember all the positives. You're like, oh, that was nice. One negative. You've experienced that, right? So this is not like groundbreaking. Maybe you haven't framed it this way before, but there it is. Okay, so 5 times more likely to pay attention to a negative thought. This is why it's so important you know what they are. So now that you know where your midline behaviors are, so you can be like, ooh, I am on the path to baseline. I am on the path to the bottom. Okay, here I am. If you know the negative thoughts that got you there, you can start to deal with them as you're dealing with the midline behavior, and they go hand in hand. It's so cool. So back to the invisible, right? If you know what those beliefs are coming in that give you those negative thoughts, you are so far ahead of the game. So far ahead of the game. And I was just recently, I'm really excited. We have a podcast episode. I talk about it in this week's podcast episode as well, because I'm super excited about it. It's coming out around the end of June that I did with another coach who actually certifies other coaches. And we were talking about how important it is in the coaching industry, which I'm out to break as much as I can, that we don't just say, change your thoughts, change your life. Because especially after understanding what happened socially, if I'm a Black woman going through life and you're telling me to change my thoughts when you don't understand the beliefs that are driving those thoughts, not only is it insulting, in my opinion, it's borderline violent, right? I mean, how awful to tell somebody they have to be changing their thoughts when I don't understand the beliefs that are behind those thoughts, or who put those beliefs there, or how those beliefs got there, how many thousands of microaggressions were experienced for that belief to get there. And that's true of all of us, right? I have certain expectations on me as a white woman, right? You guys have certain expectations on you based on your career, your sociological background, your economic background, your experiences all through your life. And if you don't know what negative thoughts are driving you, can you see how hard it is to, now that you can recognize the midline behaviors, but how hard is it to actually go, I know how I got here. Isn't that cool? You go, oh, midline behavior. Okay, I'm hungry, I'm angry, I'm lonely, I'm tired, I'm happy, right? Super celebrating. Okay, whoa. Okay, so I'm aware of this now, so I'm not gonna go to baseline behavior. Awesome. Now, what got me here? And that's really important. It's not examining your belly button and tell you, like, that's another way people avoid work, by the way. No. Just for you to understand, what are my most prevalent negative thoughts? And if you know what your top 5 negative thoughts are, you'll nail it really quickly and go, oh, you know what it is? It's when so-and-so didn't answer my email. Or it's when, oh my God, it's when my friend didn't tell me when she was coming and they went without me. Something like that, right? So I made my constant negative thought of I suck, or I'm unlovable, or you'll find your own, right? I'm stupid. I never do it right. I never do it like anybody else. I'm always the last to know. Things always sideblind me. I'm trying to think of all those I've ever heard from clients through the 12 years I've been doing this. I'm always invisible. That's easier for other people. I never understand the way I should. Those are some of the, like, honestly, there's like usual suspects. Cause like I tell you guys, we're not that original. Like, the reason I know your negative thoughts is because most people have the same ones, but you should know what yours are. You really should. And because once you see them, they can't hide anymore. Once you write them down on a piece of paper, you've moved them from the invisible to the visible, and now you can deal with them. They want to stay in the invisible because then they can run the show without you realizing. I go into depth in that in the Game On Girlfriend project, by the way. I love that course because of that module. It's all around action. It's one of my favorites because you've got to do the work to understand how you landed up in the midline before you go to the base. I mean, can you see how many things you can put up? Talk about what you're training for, right? You're training to keep yourself on track through all of these tools so that even when life gets hard, because we know now it's gonna, right? We know now Wednesday might not look like Tuesday look like. We know that now. It was always that way, but now it's like in our faces, right? So now that we know that, how are you gonna stay on track? How are you gonna keep yourself trained to continue to move forward? All right, so we gotta know your day-to-day actions and we gotta know your negative thoughts. There are some deep-seated negative thoughts that are very difficult to get rid of. Thank you so much for saying that, because that is actually one of the thoughts. Is that crazy? Do you see how smart these suckers are? That is actually one of the negative thoughts. This is too hard to get rid of. Can you believe that? Isn't that wild? I've had this for a while too. I want you to write that down. And then I want you to immediately counter it. How do you know that that's not true? Because you know. Because you are one smart woman. So you know right under there, you know that's not true. So start to counter it and watch your own brain work on your behalf. It's very cool. And get that thought out. I love that you put it here. I want it in a journal where you can see it. So the next time it tries to sneak up on you, you can go, I see you. It's very helpful. And you can laugh about it. And now you're already out of midline behavior and you're moving towards top line. When they've been there since we were little, right? You guys have to remember, I was sexually abused from the time I was 18 months old. What do you think that taught me? What beliefs do you think got instilled there? It doesn't matter what I need as long as everybody else is taken care of. Well, if it's been there since I'm 18 months old, how are you supposed to rewire that, right? Could you see that's a limiting belief right there. That's one of those right there. How could I possibly get rid of that? Well, that's been there too long. But I did. It's about looking at them and then let your brain start to work on it. Oh, well, I could never change this. It's been happening since I was 18 months old. And my countering thought to that, it took me a while, no lie, right? But I got it, and it is, this is my life. This thought gets no more of my minutes. And it didn't. It didn't. Now, I went to therapy. I did all what you're supposed to do. Like we really work on this. This is not frou-frou. This is not magical thinking. This isn't like, oh, I meditated on it one day and it just magically disappeared. No, like, get real, deal with it, and know that you can. Trust yourself enough to know that you can. People have overcome much worse, right? And they do it. They can. It's possible. It's totally, totally possible.